Thanks for being a part of In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. As always, we have a very, very special guest. And this is the tight end coach, James Casey with the Cincinnati Bengals. Played the position. In college at Rice, set 4 NCAA records that still stand at the tight end position. He knows of what he speaks. He develops his players. His players respect him, trust him. And the tight end position in this year's draft is very, very deep. A lot of the experts are saying 10 tight ends will be going in the first 2 days of the draft. 10, maybe more. See what Coach Casey has to say about these guys. It's going to be very, very interesting to hear his opinion. I think you're going to enjoy it. We appreciate you joining us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. As always, coming from our outstanding studios. And as always, we have quality guests, and none more quality guests than this guy. Tight ends coach, James Casey for the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll tell you what, I don't know very many people that were selected in 2 professional sports, but this guy was. 3 years with the Chicago White Sox organization, decides to focus on football, and then gets drafted into the National Football League, plays 7 years in the NFL as a tight end, plays a little fullback as well. Just a great athlete. And one thing, Coach, that is universal, every tight end that I've talked to plays for the Cincinnati Bengals under your guidance as a tight end coach, they cannot be more effusive in their praise of how you help them grow, not only as football players, but as people. I mean, they get a high level of respect for you, Coach.
Dave, I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on. And yeah, I was fortunate to, be athletic at a younger age and play the different sports. I'm very fortunate to be here in Cincinnati coaching and just trying to stay in, sports as long as I can, because I love sports and a lot of other things going on out there. But to me, football is one of the greatest things around. And it's a, blessing for me to be around these tight ends. And, fortunately for me, I've had great guys in the room and great, that they care and they work hard and they're tough and they want to be great, and I talk to them all the time about that's my job as a tight end coach. It's to try to give you tools and help you as much as possible. Like nobody's rooting for you guys more. Nobody's rooting for the tight ends more than I am each time when they're out.
Right.
I want them to be successful because that's my job. So I'm trying to do everything I can to give them the tools to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, you develop them. I mean, there's no question. Every tight end that comes here is a better tight end for coming here and being under your guidance. What coach can you point to during the course of your career that was somebody that you try to emulate, that maybe developed you and gave you the tools that you talk about, that maybe, okay, well, I'm going to pay this forward. I'm going to pass this on to the generation of tight ends that I'm going to be working with. Is there a guy? Is there more than one guy?
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys. I mean, there's throughout my career in college and playing in the NFL, and that's the main reason why I wanted to coach, because I was looking around after I was realizing my playing career was going to be done, that kind of thinking through what I wanted to do and thought about all different things and, being a lawyer or all this stuff. And I, it finally came to my senses and said, I know I love football, and I've had a lot of great coaches around me, and that because you can make an impact with guys. So, it's like Gary Kubiak was a big one. I was under him for, 5 years, and Chip Kelly and all my position coaches that I had. And, Brian Perriani was a position coach I had for a while, Justin Peel. And it's not just one guy. It was more just like, seeing all the guys that I've been around coaching wise. And even back in college when I had, David Bailiff and Tom Herman, just, you were able to, as a coach, you're able to like speak to so many different people, and we're around these players so much that I always look at it as I'm with the tight ends for more than my family during the season. So it'd be a shame for me to just strictly only be, yelling at them about football stuff all the time. It's more of a relationship type deal where I'm trying to help them in football, but we're also talking about, life and trying to get to know each other. Because I'm a believer that if you know that your coach really cares about you, you're gonna play even better and play even harder.
I'll tell you, there was no better example of that than watching you and Hayden Hurst develop a relationship at training camp last year. And it started before training camp, obviously, but when we got to see you everybody on a day-to-day basis at training camp, it seemed like after every snap, I mean, you guys were, you were right there, right by each other's side. He he was looking for feedback. He was looking for your opinion on everything. And like you said, probably not all the time. It wasn't football 24/7, but you guys seemed to create a very strong bond right away, didn't you?
Absolutely. Hayden was awesome for us last year. And, I know going into free agency this year, that's above, as they say, above my pay grade. But there's a lot of other factors that go on. But he was fantastic. And it's, I look at like in tight end in particular, just that's all I do. I'm in the tight end world, but I'm biased, of course, because that's my world. I'm tight end all day, every day. But you got to kind of be a little different tight end wise with the bond that you get, like you're talking about, because it's really hard job. You don't get a lot of credit. Nobody really notices a lot of the little things that you're doing in the run game and then pass protection and all the routes you're running that maybe you're not getting the ball, but it's critical. You grab the safety so Jamar can catch the ball or whatever the route is. So you got to kind of have that. To me, it's like you got to have that. It's a real special bond within our room because we're really the only ones that know all the things that go into have all the things that go into us having to do to be really good, all the little things, the practice and the tough and you have to be really smart. So we get, like you see the tight end university that they do in the offseason. And
right.
So that's, to me, that kind of came to fruition because there's just only the tight ends that are doing it and really understand it. They have like a special bond of how hard it is, the job they got to do.
Your room coach, they're all involved in free agency. I mean, you got Hayden Hurst is a free agent. Drew Sample is an unrestricted free agent as well. Mitchell Wilcox is a restricted free agent. So, I mean, you guys at this point are all out there. It doesn't mean that, none of them will return or maybe more than one will return, whatever the case may be. Like the future's unknown there. But how crazy is it to have that kind of uncertainty within your position?
Yeah, it's the tough, part of the job is when you around these guys so much and you guys get to know each other. We get to know each other so well. Sometimes it's for many years. And, like I've been with Drew for 4 years. So you're getting to really know him and then it becomes free agency time and then it's kind of out of your hands. But it's also just the nature of the job. Like, I'm rooting for all those guys and, I will always want all my guys to be able to stick around forever. But that's, in the big picture, it's hard to do because there gets money involved and all the other stuff that's out of my control. But that's what, it's just the nature of it. And I kind of try not to even, think about that stuff too much because I don't have a lot of control in it. But that's like the first day on the job in 2019, it was a similar situation where like Eifert was a free agent, Tyler Croft was a free agent, Uzama was a free agent. So I was coming into a room where basically everybody was a free agent,
Right.
So I was, but it ended up working out where we got guys and they played well and it's the same boat. So I'm trying to do everything I can on my part to, evaluate everybody. And, when the upstairs, Mr. Brown or Duke or Zach, if they ask me about any of the guys, I have a strong opinion about each guy, but I'm also just whenever I get in my room, whoever the guys are, like I'm just going to do everything I can to make them the best possible players they can be.
I know you got 3 buckets you're going to be working with. You get your own guys, the 3 we're talking about. All them better than anybody, obviously, in the organization. The relationship you have with those 3 tight ends we've talked about. You have veteran tight ends that are out there in free agency that you're probably evaluating now and seeing what type of players and things they can and can't do. And then you got the draft, the college players, and the tight end position in this year's draft. I mean, the quote experts are saying, there could be as many as 10 tight ends drafted in the first 2 days, the first couple rounds, maybe 3 rounds. What first 2 days, 3 rounds, first, second, and third round. It might even be more than that. What your knee-jerk reaction to the depth of the tight end position coming out of college this year? What do you think overall as a group? Is it as good as people are saying?
I agree. Yeah, I think it's a really good group, and it's been fun to watch them. Each year you watch all the college guys, and I'm fortunate here in Cincinnati because we have more of a role in like watching all the guys in college, and it's always fun for me to watch the college film too, and just to see it's fun for me too this year, like to see that there was years like last year wasn't as a great year, and you get I'm a tight end guy, I played tight end, coach tight end, so I want the tight ends to be really good and want it to keep being a big part of NFL offenses, which I think it needs to be, and it's going to be. But it's fun watching how many there are out there this year that are they're really talented, and good people. We go to the combine, you get to talk to a lot of the guys and kind of get to see their character, see their background, and there's a lot of them that are solid people too. And it's almost kind of inherent in being a good tight end is you got to because you got to be tough, you got to be smart, you got to be unselfish, you got to be versatile. So you most of the time you do need to be a certain type of person to be good at it. But I agree that this year it's making it tough on me to evaluate them because there's so many of them that are, they come in all shapes and sizes and all that, and you're watching them and some of them are good at this, some are good at that, but there's a lot of them that got a lot of potential. But as playing in the NFL, like the tight end position as a rookie, it's tough regardless. It's a hard job to get on track that first year, your rookie year, of the speed of the game, understanding the difference, picking up the offense. You got to pick up special teams. You got to learn all those things, and you got to be able to, you're going against these freak defensive ends. So you got to start, you got to get better at your leverage, and there's a lot to know, a lot of nuance, a lot of things going on in time position. So it's hard to draft one and then just count on them to be like a star right away. A lot of times you got to develop them a little bit. So that's another part of the draft process, is trying to see, where you think these guys will be, down the road as well.
So of the intangibles that you spoke of, in the interview process is probably as vitally important as any of it at the combine, because these guys are all physical freaks. I mean, it's unbelievable, the size speed ratio of players in the NFL today, and at the tight end position is crazy. I mean, if you're 6'3" now, you're a little guy. You're a little tight end. There's 6'5", 6'6", even 6'7" tight ends, 6'7", 270. It's like, what? And can run and move, and it's like, oh my God. It's crazy. But when you're, other than the physical aspects of it that we'll talk about, obviously, but what is the intangible that you're looking for in terms of helping that overall team chemistry you guys have done such a great job of building so far?
Yeah, that's a critical aspect to me, and it gets lost sometimes. And even when you're in college and recruiting high school kids, and you're and especially professionally recruiting, not recruiting but scouting college players, is that you can see the film, you can see the 40-yard dash and the size and the measurables, and those things matter. They're important, because it does make a difference if you're 6'3" and you got short arms trying to block a long defensive end as opposed to a taller guy. But they're also the other things are critical. Like, you can watch the film, and most of mine is based off of watching the film, see how he is as a player, how tough is he, how does he finish, how aggressive is he, his technique, obviously catching the ball, and then just a big aspect of tight ends. To me, and I think this is true, is what kind of person is he? Like, you got to be intelligent to play tight end. Besides quarterback, we got to know more than everybody else. So you got to have some intelligence. Like, I know that the fans that watch on TV, you're at the game, you see the plays, but there's a lot going into each play, as you're aware of, especially at the tight end position. So they got to be intelligent. So you kind of try to gauge how smart they are, and then toughness. Toughness and aggressive mindset, because it's hard to, if the guy's not tough and you don't have that kind of killer instinct and aggression, that's the hardest part as a coach, to try to get that out of the guys and try to make them their best self and get the best out of them, if they just don't have it in their nature to be aggressive and have that killer instinct on the field, and not just get in the way as a blocker, but you're really trying to get after that guy and trying to embarrass that guy. It's almost like a fight every play, not literally, but it's as an offensive lineman, I mean, it's every play is basically a fight. You're not taking it to punches, but you need to be ready to do that. You need to be willing to do that. And if you're not, you're probably not going to be very good.
No, that's very true. I mean, the tight end position, you're right. It's they have to have a serious aptitude for the game of football. And there's been a lot of examples of the bigger bodied quarterbacks that it doesn't work out necessarily at the quarterback position. There's somebody a little more talented or whatever, and they play them at the tight end position. They've seen multiple examples of it, and maybe one of the greatest now is Travis Kelce. I mean, Kelce was a quarterback, and goes to UC and converts to the tight end position, and look at him, look at what he's doing. I mean, do you think that that's a vital piece of his makes him a great player, and some of these tight ends that have been great over the years that have played the quarterback position, they see the game through a quarterback's eyes playing tight end?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a big part. And that's one of the funnest things about the draft and about the combine and pro days and getting to know these guys, is most of these tight ends have a unique story. Most of the times it's not them being a tight end in high school and then getting recruited to a big college to play tight end and then just playing tight end forever. Most of the time, it's guys that play quarterback. Or this year, there's guys that there's at least 2 or 3 of these guys that only played 1 year of high school football. They're basketball players,
Right.
And then they play their senior year of high school. Then they get recruited to go to some college, and then they kind of just turn into a really good tight end. There's a guy, one of the guys played like 9-man football in high school, and he was like a running back, and then he got to college and he moved to tight end. And almost all of them have stories like that. And it is important to me, and I like those type of guys that come from quarterback or even like a defensive end / receiver in high school, because they're showing the toughness, but also the athleticism. And because it's just those guys that they want the ball in their hands and they want to be a big part of it. And in high school, when you're the quarterback, that you're usually a certain type of young man in high school. If you're the quarterback that everybody counts on, so you're a guy that people trust.
I've got an affinity for tight ends that played basketball. I got a kid brother who was all-state in both sports when he was in high school. He was an all-state tight end and an all-state basketball player. He chose to play basketball in college. My brother Roger at University of Maine, and great career. He's like second all-time leading scorer when he graduated out of Maine. He gets drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA, and doesn't work out, and he ends up going back to play a year of college football to finish his degree and everything, change majors, and plays football. And Coach Bicknell, Bob Bicknell, was the head coach at Maine. He's like, dude, you're the best tight end on campus. He has a great year. Gets drafted by the Buffalo Bills in the 7th round. So, I mean, and I can understand that there's some carryover to what you're doing on a basketball court in terms of bodying people up and all that sort of thing, what you're doing as a tight end and route running, then eye-hand coordination, having good hands, catching the ball. It's all big, isn't it?
Yeah, basketball is big, because it's like I look at basketball like, especially NBA level or elite college, those are like the freaks of the freaks athletes, because they're tall, fast, athletic, great movement skills. So it does help a ton. Like my kids, my own personal kids, they played basketball this year, so it was fun watching them, and I know it's just so good for athleticism. And then the counter to that is that like some people will say, well, why don't you just go look at these really freaky basketball players in college that don't go to the NBA or whatever, and then why don't you go get those guys to play tight end? Well, that can work, but they're going to have that mindset and that kind of killer instinct and being tough, and because it's going to take a long time for them to learn the technique. There's way more going into blocking than just running in there and trying to hit the defensive end. You got to have feet, technique, balance, leverage, understanding angles. Like there's a lot of little nuanced stuff to it. So some of those guys end up being good at football, but a lot of them don't, just because there's so much mental stuff that goes into being a football player. What you do at tight end, you need you can't just grab anybody that hadn't played tight end and expect them to be good at tight end. It takes time, a lot of time. And in the NFL, you don't have a lot of time just to sit there and develop guys forever. They got to be able to go out there and play and help you win games.
Let's hit on a few of these tight ends, Coach, and just maybe highlight their predominant skill set. What makes them special a little bit. Let's hit a few of these guys. And I know you're in the early stages. I mean, the combine just happened. This is the very early stages of evaluating guys at this position. But boy, there are so many of them. Kid out of Utah, Dalton Kincaid. He's the basketball player. He won an AAU national championship, as I recall. He was on that kind of a basketball team, and he's really, really good player. 6'4", pushing 245, 250 out of Utah. He seems to be a tremendous receiver of the football. Obviously, is that his biggest thing? Hey, Dave Lapham here to tell you about one of Cincinnati's fastest growing companies, First Star Logistics. They're currently drafting freight brokers to join their sales team. Apply at firststarlogistics.com.
First Star Logistics, opportunity knocking.
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid out of Utah is he's a real intriguing prospect, because he's like you talked about. He only played 1 year of high school football. He was a basketball player. He went to University of San Diego first, and then transferred to Utah. So he's got a unique background. But just watching the film of him, I remember watching him on a Saturday night before we played somebody this past year, and against USC. It happened to be the USC game when he had like 16 catches or something. Just watching as a fan on TV, I was like, man, that guy looks good. I didn't know what year he was or anything like that, because we're focused on winning games. We're not getting into the scouting until it becomes
Right.
at the top. But
Right.
yeah, he's dynamic. I mean, he can run and catch. He's got great ball skills, like really good hands. Those guys are hard to find. And then, he also does enough as a blocker that gets you, intrigued as him, like his development, being a guy that, he's not really big enough that you're going to put it at the point of attack on duo a bunch, but he seems to have the attitude when you watch the film and talking to him that he's willing to do it, and he'll get better as he gets bigger and stronger and older. So he's a very, intriguing prospect that, I'm sure whoever drafts him is going to be, excited. But it's a lot of them. There's a lot of these, just big picture wise, a lot of these, the draft situation where you draft a guy and he gets in that, a lot of it is, how is he going to handle getting to the NFL locker room? How's he going to handle picking up the offense? How's he going to handle like playing through injuries and being tough? And so some of these guys are talented, but it's, it depends on, a lot of other factors about how good they're going to be in their career.
Another one, Michael Meyer. I remember him at Covcath in high school. I mean, he was a hell of a basketball player in high school as well as football player. Goes to Notre Dame and had a great career up at Notre Dame. I mean, he seems to be a complete tight end. What's your thought on Michael Meyer?
Michael is, he is a impressive young man. It's just his makeup, like what kind of person he is. He's a very confident person, but not, like cocky. He's, when he's speaking, he sounds like he's, 30 years old. And I know he's from right down the street from here.
Yeah.
Which is big. So he knows about the area and all those things. And he's he's like probably the most polished like prospect coming out, because he was at Notre Dame. He's played a whole bunch of football. He's had a whole bunch of catches, whole bunch of, practice at blocking and in games. And he's got good size and strength and toughness. So he's one of those guys when you're scouting and some of them you got question marks on. You want to find out more about their character. He's one that's, like he checks all the boxes, outside of football. It's strictly for him. It's just about his, where do you see that he fits in the draft? And that's, the upstairs with Duke Tobin and Mr. Brown and Zach. Where do you see that he fit? And then how does he fit in our offense? But he's kind of the complete package. He's got all the intangibles, smart, tough, and runs good enough for his size. So he's one of those guys when you watch, like tight end, until you watch some of these guys and you're like, this guy's probably going to play in the NFL for a long time and have a really good career. And how great it's going to be is, what situation does he get in, and how does he handle the other stuff? But he's a guy that's probably going to play in the NFL for a long time.
I know these guys, when they start researching you a little bit, they'll see that I think you still have 4 NCAA tight end records that you set when you're in college. I think 4 of them still stand. So they'll know, of what you speak, man. It's like I'm being coached by a guy that played at a high level, and that gives you instantaneous credibility. There's no question about that, no doubt about it. Luke Musgrave, 6'6", 250 out of Oregon State. What's his main asset?
He's another way. He's got great size and length, and he runs really well. He's extremely athletic, run and catch guy. He's another dynamic pass catching guy that he's got a chance to, if he puts it all together with the blocking and he the intelligence with understanding the offense, and he's got a chance to be a really good player too. But he's a little bit more of a projection where you may, wherever he gets drafted at, you're hoping he because he hasn't shown all of it on film with the blocking and the consistency and and staying healthy, because he's had some injuries. Right. But he's got all the ability to be a really good one. And he's unique backstory too. His uncle is Bill Musgrave, who's a quarterback's coach for a long time, and he was like a skier in high school, and so he played like 4 different sports, and he's been around it in his family. So he's another one that's got a lot of potential, and he's got the size and the speed, and he catches the ball well, down the field target. So he's a really intriguing guy, but with some question marks too. So you get, that those are all of them got little question marks too.
Right. Darnell Washington, you talk about imposing. Geez, 6'7"-ish, 270 pounds, in that range, out of Georgia. He made that one-handed catch that kind of finished off the tight end day at the combine. I mean, that was just he plucked that bad boy like he was grabbing a grapefruit or something, man. Big old man. What about Darnell?
Darnell is he's fun to watch, like just at the combine, because most of the guys like that look like him and have the athletic ability like him and the size and speed, most of those guys are playing defensive end, because that, they however it works out through high school or college, they end up putting those guys at defensive end to rush the passer.
Yeah.
So you don't get a lot of those type of athletes at the tight end position. That's what's exciting about him. He's got the size, he's strong, he's fast. As it was surprising he ran as fast as he did at the combine, because that's like incredible. Like that he's the size that he is to be able to run that speed, and his shuttles were real fast as well. Like, so he's got quickness to him as well. And so he's a really intriguing guy with his size. The negative, he's not like real sudden. Like he doesn't have like a ton of quickness, where tight ends is a lot of the stuff you got to be, quickness is almost more important than your speed on
Right.
some of the stuff, the underneath routes and change of direction, and just blocking, like blocking a zone scheme where you got to be able to, take that angle to, capture the outside armpit, and you got to be hauling off the ball to get to it. But he's got it in him. He shows it with the short shuttles and stuff. So he's coming from Georgia, and he's got another interesting background, and it'd be, I'm excited to whether if we draft him or whoever drafts him, I'm really excited to see what he does in his career.
So how about another guy, Sam LaPorta, 6'3", 245 out of Iowa. George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant. I mean, they've had some tight ends come out of Iowa. Is this guy cut from that cloth?
He appears to be. I mean, he ran 4.59 at the combine, so it's hard to tell sometimes on film. You can see him running, but then he puts that 40 time up, so it's verified that he's got speed to him, and some of them too. Like and coming from Iowa is a big plus for him, because the history of those guys producing great NFL tight ends, and within his offense, they run a lot of the schemes that NFL teams run with wide zone, and they run some duo where they're putting the tight end at the point of attack. So he's like familiar with all the different run concepts and blocking responsibilities. He had a limited kind of route tree in college where he wasn't running all the the type of routes that we'll be asking him to do. So those are you got to kind of evaluate them off of the routes that he runs at the combine, and just seeing the ones that he does in college where he's maybe like a basic or something, which he didn't do a ton of, but we would be asking him to do. But yeah, he's got all the makings to be a good one. He's not very big, it does matter, when you're 6'3" as opposed to 6'4", 6'5", when you're going against these long defensive ends like Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. And if you don't have like a lot of length to you, you better have some strong hands to be able to get into him quick. So that's a little negative to him. But he's another one. And just as a person, he's a confident guy, like speaks loud, like not he's not insecure at all. Like he's another one. I mean, we're talking about all these guys, which is really rare. Like most of the time it's not like this as tight ends when you're talking about them. Like this one, like all these guys you mentioned so far have got the ability, to be a really good player in the NFL, and it's going to be fun to watch him.
What about Tucker Kraft, 6'5", mid-250s, South Dakota State?
Yeah, he's like he is like a really, really confident guy. He's fun to talk to, because he's a different type of person in a good way. Like I love guys like that are they're tough, they're smart, they know what they're talking about, and they're not shy about it. He's the guy that played 9-man football in high school, and he was a running back. He was like a Derrick Henry of 9-man football in high school. Just I think he ran for over 1,000 yards, and then he got to college, and he's got all the makings to have an ability to be a good one. He's big, he's strong, he runs well. Because these guys ran so fast, I think there was like 9 or 10 of them that ran under 4.7, which was unique. So he doesn't get, but his ability to run as fast, I think he ran a 4.69 with his size. That's very impressive. Yeah. So he's another very intriguing guy. And don't tell him that he's from a smaller school and that hurts his evaluation. That really pisses him off. But I like that about it.
How about out of UC, Josh Wiley, 6'6", 250?
Yeah, there's UC had 2 of them at the combine, and Michael Meyer being from right down the road. So we got in this area in Cincinnati, there's like 3 of these guys that were like some of the best in the country, which is fun. And Wiley is a intriguing guy as well. He's long, he runs well, catches the ball well. he kind of fits in the mold of the Musgrave guy too, where he's got to kind of, because he's so long and lean and runs and catches well, but the tight end position, that's critical. But they also got to be able to, block and understand all the run scheme stuff. And so he's the same thing. He's got the ability to be a really good one. And it'll be like, for some of these guys, it's going to be kind of how fast are they going to develop whenever they get on whatever NFL team they get on.
So what about this kid out of Miami, Florida, Will Mallory? What is 6'5", 245, 250? What do you think about him?
He's just watching him run that 40 and just watching him at the combine moving around, like you can tell, like I think he was like a track guy in high school. Like I think he ran like a really good 110 hurdle times in high school. Not that that's like end all be all, but you can tell when you watch him run the 40, like he knows how to run technique wise, and he's got some burst to him. Yeah. And he kind of gets overlooked because all these other guys, but I think he's got a chance to be a good one too. He's a great guy to talk to. You can tell he's smart. You can tell that Miami trusted him. They could put him in all different spots, and he was intelligent enough to know it all. He's got football in his background too. Like his dad is a coach. I think his uncle was a coach. And that's another thing that kind of popped out this year is a couple of these guys that are good looking players. They also had like parents that were coaching, or it was in their family. So they kind of been around it and they understand it. So they, especially tight end wise, they understand all the things that it takes to be good. I'm excited about that guy too. He's another one. Like all these guys, I'm excited just to see how they do. It's good for the position. It's good for the brand.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there's a dozen. What about Brenton Strange out of Penn State, 6'4", 253?
Yeah, he's solid. I mean, he played a lot of football at Penn State. He's got real good quickness. He may not have like the long speed. He ran like a 4.7, so he can run, but he's a little bit, because he's kind of a compact guy. So when I watch him, it's a little bit like myself a little bit. Like I was 6'3", and I didn't have very long arms, so it was always a negative on me. But because I was able to like show that I could block, that I don't put that as a huge negative, as long as I got a good mindset. And he was at Penn State, played a long time, like, really good player. And he's not got like, he doesn't have like anything like jumps off at you with like speed or size or anything like that, but he's solid. And solid guys that you can trust can play a long time.
Little explosion to him. I saw he had a 36-inch vertical. I mean, that's decent. That's not bad. And then another kid out of the Big Ten, out of Michigan, Luke Schoonmaker, 6'5", 250, big old tight end. Yeah,
he's kind of in that strange mode too. I mean, they're all good, which is it's really a challenge for me this year, because there's so many of these guys that are good to try to like, and nobody's got the perfect answers. Some of it's like kind of you're talking to them, you're seeing the film, you're kind of like you're projecting what you think these guys will be. And so I got to really spend a lot of time this year, like really getting a good idea of how I feel about all these guys. But Schoonmaker he's got a burst to him. He runs really well. He's got good size. He's from Michigan, so Harbaugh is going to make sure he can block. And he's kind of an all-around, like, just solid player with good speed, catches the ball well. He's got the ability after the catch to turn a 5-yard, stick route into 10, 15-yard breaking tackles, getting up the field. He's very intriguing. Like he's one of those guys that probably play for a long time and be a good player.
So I mean, we're talking, and the list goes on and on. I mean, it's a crazy list of tight ends, but we went through about a dozen there, and haven't exhausted guys that could go, in the top 5 rounds. I mean, a lot of people saying a good number of these guys are going to be gone by, 3rd round. But do you think it seems like with this number of players, you can still get a quality guy in the 3rd, 4th round, 5th round even?
Yeah, it's so impressive with how many of them there are that are like good, instead of, it's not, sometimes you have years where you have like, 2 or 3 of them that you feel really good about in the 2nd, 3rd round, and then you don't feel the next one you don't feel good about until like the 4th, 5th round or later. And it's within the draft too. It's that, like we've been talking, this is kind of like my world the last couple of weeks and up until the draft, would be like watching all these guys and evaluating them and kind of fit, getting my my personal opinion of where I think how they would fit us and what potential round they should be. But then the other factors are we also got all these other positions, defensive back, whatever it is, running back, offensive line. So sometimes you get everybody, graded out of how you see them and where you think it would make sense for us to draft them and where you think they deserve to be drafted at. And then it comes down to the round and it's our pick. And then that's when it's kind of out of my hands, where it's, maybe we have a tight end graded here, but we have this, lineman, defense lineman, offense lineman that we had graded higher, and he's still available, and we can't pass up him because he's really good. So it just depends on how the draft plays out, and it depends on how free agency plays out too, with the how much emphasis we're putting on tight end in the draft, which is I have no idea. It's out of my hands. And
right.
I'm just selfishly, when we get into the draft, I'm just hoping that one that we really like, not just me, like, everybody upstairs really likes, is, falls down to wherever our pick is at and everybody likes him. And then, because I would love an opportunity to get a younger one to get in here to help, mold a young one that's got a chance to be really, really good. So I can, start from the beginning, which I had Sample was the only one I've had from like the beginning. And
right.
I was, it really sucks for him to get hurt like this year, because then people kind of just forget about it. But, I think he's, solid player. And I think he was going to have a great year. And I think he's still got some good football ahead of him. But we haven't drafted one in a couple of years. So if we get a younger one, I'll be excited. Just hopefully it's the right one, which I'm sure, everybody upstairs is going to make sure it's the right one that we get, if we do draft one.
Like you mentioned, the combine, then the pro days, you're going to be hitting the road, doing further deep dive into these guys. And all I can say, Coach, is whatever bucket it is, retaining whoever it is of ours or veteran free agent from another football team or one of these young guys, like you said, at least give you one young guy to develop and grow. That young man's going to be very fortunate, as are all the veteran players that are in your room with you leading the way at the tight end position. Bengals are very fortunate to have you, man.
Yeah. Well, and also I'd be remiss not to talk about the guys that I have too, that are coming back that I'm excited about. With Wilcox as a restricted free agent, and I'm extremely proud of kind of what he's done.
Yeah. Yep.
He was in year 3. He was an undrafted guy. And, if you put the film on him this last year, played a lot of football. And I think that, around the league, they'd probably be impressed with how he played, being tough and made some big blocks for us, big plays for us. And then Devin Asiasi is going into year 4. I'm excited to see him through an offseason, because we got him when the season started. So it's hard you can't really evaluate your own guys during the season. You're just getting ready for the games with the game plan. Right. But see him through OTAs and see him through, mini camps and training camp. And then the 2 guys that we had on practice squad this year they're not by any stretch just throwaway guys. These guys are legit guys. Nick Bowers, he's in, I think he's going to year 4. He's played football for the Raiders, and we got him right at the beginning of the year. So we didn't get to see him through the offseason. And then Tanner Hudson, guy we got later in the year, is on the roster, and I think he's going to, surprise a lot of people when you see him in OTAs and training camp, and you can see him run around and catch the ball. I mean, he's a really good athlete. And so, as we do have some free agents and all those things, but I'm also feel really good about the guys that are in the room right now. And hopefully we can add some pieces to it, and I can, we can really do our part during the season of making sure we're, helping us win a lot of football games and getting us over that hump.
Well, I think you coach one of the most unique positions in sports, not just football. I mean, man, you have to block like a tackle and run routes and catch like a wideout, man. That's a tall order, I mean, that's a heck of a responsibility at the tight end position, and you teach it, coach it so well. And Bengals are very fortunate to have you, and appreciate your time, Coach. You gave us some pretty good information on some of these guys, and hopefully the Bengals get one that you want.
I appreciate the heck out of it, Dave. Thanks for having me on. And you want to talk tight ends, I'm always available to talk tight ends. I'm on my own little world a lot of the times, but I always love talking tight ends.
You're the man, Coach. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dave. Take care.
You too. Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.
Hey there, everybody. I'm Dave Lapham, and we do a podcast called In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And if you want to hit the like button on when you're reserving any video, that'd be a good thing to do. And if you want to subscribe and not miss any videos, make sure you do that, because we are going to try to cover the Cincinnati Bengals every way that they can be covered.